Hi Tally, how you going?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having a chat with me on Actors Making It today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. So, remind me, you're in LA?
Yes, yep. Been living in Los Angeles for about 6 years now.
Okay, cool. And where are you from
Yeah.
originally?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay, very
Very
good.
cold and snowy and miserable there.
Uh, it is so hot
So,
and muggy here at the moment that I would love some cold and snow right now.
no, I mean no. It's too much. They get like 100 inches of snow every year to shovel through, and you have to wait like a half an hour for your car to warm up. It's miserable. I don't recommend going there. But the burgers are really good.
I'm
So you go for
thinking about it.
cheeseburgers and hot dogs. It's really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And was the move to LA to follow your dream of acting?
Yeah, pretty much. It was started in Illinois, actually. I was studying mathematics at Northern Illinois University, and I watched this movie called. Have you heard of Black Swan? The
Yes.
Natalie Portman. Yeah, in 2010. I watched that movie, and it sounds so weird, but I was very, for some reason, very heavily inspired by that movie. And I started researching like her acting process and how the movie was made, the everything with production, and it inspired me to take an acting class. And so from that acting class, I just sort of discovered this not just like a want but a need to do
Okay.
acting. Like it's something like I felt like I had to do. And then a few years after that, I made the move to LA, and I've been here ever since. But it
Yeah.
was sparked. I should thank, if I ever have the chance to meet Natalie Portman one day, I'll say you were the reason why I
Yeah.
decided to
Wow.
pursue acting.
So,
Yeah.
can I ask how old you were at that point when you kind of watched that movie and had that creative awakening?
Well, at that point, it came out in 2010, so that was 12 years ago, and I'm 31 now, so that would mean I was 19.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So
19. I'm
you're
20, somewhere in there, yeah.
still relatively young, but had you ever thought about wanting to act before this?
A little bit. I remember like I was younger and I was in like a modeling phase. I was like, I want to be a model. I was watching a lot of America's Next Top Model, and I want to be a model. But my mom kind of shut me down on that. And then there was like moments where I was like, oh, I think I would like to do acting. Like it was fun to perform. It's just a fun thing. But my parents were very much like, no, you doctor, lawyer, engineer,
Right. Okay.
that they were very, very into like you are only pursuing anything in the academic sense. So it was like it was never a serious thing to pursue any sort of acting or modeling or anything
Okay.
like that. Yeah, it was always like a fantasy, but it was like, oh, people don't actually do that.
Okay. I mean, people obviously do
Yeah.
that because we
Yeah, of course,
do
yeah.
television programs and theatre shows all the time.
Mm,
Um,
right.
so your family weren't particularly supportive of your idea or dreams of becoming an actor early on
Right.
in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they like. Yeah, I mean, when I would say it, they probably thought, oh, it's just a phase. Like you're never gonna like. I remember my mom would say something like, how many people like want to be actors, So it was like she kind of showed like was instilling the statistical aspect of it. How it's like there's millions of people every year who pursue acting and going to these major cities like LA, New York, whatnot to pursue acting, and how many of them actually make it. And I think in my parents' mind, their idea of making it as an actor is becoming famous, like the next Angelina Jolie. But the reality is that there's so many working actors who are not famous, but they're still happy and successful because they're doing what they love and they're making a living off of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, it was always a pipe dream, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just go for then. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just kind of did what my parents wanted me to do.
Yeah, wow. How did that kind of make you feel at the time, kind of pursuing something that wasn't really your dream?
Yeah, I think as a kid I didn't think about it too much because, I think, well, when you're like a young teenager, I was so busy with school and then I had a part-time job afterwards. So I never had a chance, I think, to just sort of sit and think about what I want to do. Which is so interesting looking back. I never realized that because it was just school and then work, school and work. And then how often do kids these days or teenagers have a time to sit down and think, well, what do I want to do? But it's also a heavy question because how does a young adult even know what they want to do for the rest of their life? Because your interests and passions are always changing. But anyways, yeah, I just, I think my parents were very much like, no, you're, go into something like engineering or math related. And I was always very good at math. And then when you're good at something, that kind of motivates you to keep doing it.
Yes.
So I was like, well, I'm good at math and I could, make a lot of money doing it. And, my parents were very money driven people.
Yeah.
So my dad would say, my dad would always say, if you can do math, you can do anything. And I believe that to this day, not in the sense of like knowing formulas, but like the analytical mind that you develop from pursuing a sort of scientific or mathematical career, I think is very helpful.
Yeah.
But not necessary to become successful.
Sure. It's so interesting what you kind of touched on there around what success is and how a lot of people do deem being successful by the amount of money that you make or by the amount of money that you have. But it's so easy to become a slave to, okay, well, it's just, I'm doing this for money, and then you lose all joy and passion for what it is that you're doing. How do parents feel now about your kind of current situation, given you've been in LA for the last 6 years? If you decided to start studying acting back in 2010, then you've got 12 years of kind of chasing this dream behind you. Are they supportive now? Has there been a flip?
Yeah, what's funny is like, I was thinking about this the other day of when I originally told them that I don't want to be a mathematician anymore, I want to do acting. And I cannot remember that conversation. It's completely blacked out of my mind for some reason. I don't know why. I really cannot remember anything about telling them I know their reactions were very negative and they were very surprised, but I cannot remember any details about it. But nowadays, I think my mom, they don't really say anything. To be honest, they're not super supportive. They never ask how is, acting going. I think my mom will maybe ask like once a year, like how is the acting stuff going? But they think they think of it as like a hobby.
Right.
I don't think they don't take, especially my dad doesn't really take it that seriously. He doesn't even acknowledge it at all.
Okay.
Or even like my current job, he'll just say, how's your homework going? Which I think it's very interesting because I think in his mind I'm still like a little girl to him. So they don't really, they're not very supportive and they don't really talk about the acting.
Yeah, wow.
The acting stuff, as they say. Yeah.
How, what kind of impact does that have on you, given, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on kind of trying to make other people proud and make family members proud of what they're doing and whatnot. I don't personally subscribe to that kind of mentality, but a lot of people do. So where do you sit on the scale of your parents' validation of what you're doing, and how does their non-support impact your life?
Yeah, I think that like everyone's inner child wants to make their parents proud, and I think like there is a part of me, not as much with my mom but with my dad, to like show him, I guess, to like, I guess there is, you know, a little bit of me that's like, I want to prove him and everybody wrong that like I can make it, and like I, you know, and I think that in some sense, you know, it's already been sort of proven because I'm in LA and I've been in a lot of acting projects, and that's pretty great enough that I haven't, that I'm still here and still hustling and fighting. I think that is definitely like that, there's like, that's like a progress bar into that, the sort of success aspect of it. um um Repeat your question again. Sometimes this happens, my mind will blank out.
How does their non-support,
Mm.
given that you've just kind of explained that there is a part of you that is seeking that validation from your dad,
Yeah.
how does that impact you on a day-to-day, and how do you deal with that?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, inner child still kind of wants to please, you know, and wants to show the family that I'm, you know, gonna be successful. But overall, I don't care as much. Um, I overall, I don't. Yeah. I mean, you just come. I just came to this sort of conclusion that, you know, this is my life, and I think that in a lot of ways that their mind is still back in how things were like 10-20 years ago. Like, you gotta have to have the respectable job and the 9 to 5 and make a certain amount of money and the house and the family and blah 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 blah, and you've made your American dream kind of thing. But that's just not my idea of success, and I think it's okay for a child to sort of grow up and you know, they can agree with their parents or not agree with their parents, but I think the point is just to develop their own state of mind and what success means to them and how they want to live their life. So overall, it affects me sort of emotionally in the sense of I don't have a support system from my family, but I try not to let it bother me. I don't think about it too much. I just try to keep focusing on acting. Yeah.
And I think that's the right thing. Probably the best thing that you can do is let it fuel you and keep focusing on your dreams. So we've touched on success a lot. So back in 2010, when you were watching Black Swan and being inspired by Natalie Portman and making that decision to, you know what, screw what my parents think is the right path for me. I'm quitting maths and I'm studying drama or studying acting. What was your idea of success at that point in time? What was your idea of making it, and what were you working towards when you first started out?
Right. Okay. Well, I am not going to sugarcoat it. I wanted to be famous. Right? I think there's a lot of actors that are like, oh, I don't want to be famous. I want to just be the working actor. And it's like, okay, come on. A lot of people get in this business because they want to be the next Natalie Portman or the next Angelina Jolie, right? Who doesn't want to be an A-list actor with the house and the car? Like initially, I think that's what drives a lot of people to get in the acting business, right? Because it's fun and the lifestyle is great. And I mean, yes, it comes with a lack of privacy, but it's portrayed as very glamorous and something that, like, wow, if I achieve that, like, I have made it in life, you know? So that was definitely a big part of the reason. But another part was that when I was in these acting classes, man, it's so hard to explain. Like, I remember the best, I was doing a monologue, and it was like in front of a class of people. And then I was so into this monologue that it felt like the room just went black. Like, it felt like I was so in it. Like, I completely embodied this character that, like, nothing else mattered. It was very strange. It's not like the room actually blacked out, but it was like mentally, you are not you anymore. And I found that to be, like, very liberating and interesting and therapeutic in a lot of ways. And I was like, wow, I can really... this is very different than any other profession out there, and how it challenges you in so many ways. So yeah.
All right. So wanting to be famous is how you
Wanted
started.
initially
Yeah.
wanting to be famous, and then it was that combination of like, oh wow, this is very liberating and therapeutic and really fun and interesting. So
Yeah.
to me, that's why I pursued it. And but yes, at the time my idea of success was A-list actor, famous, da, da, da. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was 20, you
No,
know. um
hey,
yeah.
some people still have that same dream,
Yeah.
but I think perhaps aren't as honest about it now. I mean, I still believe that one day I will be a known named actor, whether it's A list or whatever. I still have like I believe in myself that I'll get there. I think that's fine to have. How's your
Yeah.
what has changed now? What is your idea of success now, 12 years into pursuing your dream?
Now my idea of success has definitely shifted. I mean, of course, there's still a part of me that's like, I want to be the named actor and I want my work to resonate with people and to be in those blockbuster movies. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, of course. Who doesn't want that? But it's shifted a lot in the sense of how it's helped me a lot with my mental health and anxiety and depression. And
Okay.
it gives me a chance to, like, when I'm exploring a character and I'm taking the physical and mental role of another character, it's so nice to not be me for a change. It's
Yeah.
so nice to be someone else. You know, you don't have to deal with anxiety or OCD. It's, you know, it's freeing. And just to pursue. So for me, I guess overall, it's I want to keep doing this and making a living from
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
fun, it's therapeutic, and just to make a living, you know what? That's great. Because
Yeah.
I've learned that when I attach myself too much to like the goal of, you know, I want to make it and travel the world and make lots of money. Like when I hold on to materialistic goals, I actually get more anxiety from that
Right, okay.
and more OCD tendencies.
Yeah, sure.
So I found that by just bringing resizing that mountain and just bringing it down to a more achievable goal, it's been the best decision for me to
Yeah,
just
awesome.
kind of reframe that and
Yeah.
be like, what are the chances of anybody becoming a named actor? I mean, it's very slim, but I think to reframe it and just say to do what I love and make a living off of it is
Yeah.
that would be the ultimate dream.
Yeah.
As you know, over the past few years, self-tapes have become the norm and they are being used by more and more industry professionals to cast all sorts of productions. I've personally recorded self-tapes for theatre and TV and film and commercials, and it makes life easier for casting as they can see more options. But what isn't easy for us actors is finding someone to read for us in the moment that we need them. That's where We Audition comes in. We Audition is an online video chat community where you can call someone that has marked themselves available and they will read for you for your audition. You can use We Audition to rehearse, film, or just ask questions that may help your audition. Last year I had an actor contact me who had never drank alcohol, who just wanted to know how to play drunk. You can sign up to We Audition to be a reader yourself. I log into We Audition most days and I just leave it on and people call and I accept and I help them with their auditions. So you can earn a little extra cash doing that and you can just meet some great people. I even helped one of the main cast of Morning Wars tape an audition towards the end of last year. Look, it's a great platform and if you're going to sign up to be a reader, it basically pays for itself. So if you want to sign up to be a reader on We Audition, you can get 25% off using the Actors Making It discount code MAKINGIT. So just go to www.weaudition.com and use the code MAKINGIT when you sign up.
Do I think you mentioned it before with your dad saying, asking how's the homework. So what
Oh
do you,
yeah, gosh, that
what
always
do
pisses
you
me
do for
off.
work? What do you do for work at the moment to kind of pay the bills while forging your career?
Yeah, I'm a copywriter,
Oh, cool.
which is just a fancy way of saying I write like articles or whatever the hell a client wants me to write. I'll write it and I get paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Keeps
But
the-
that's my homework, as he says.
Awesome. So you've touched a little bit here on OCD and anxiety and depression. Can you talk to me a little bit more about your experience with that and how that, I guess, has manifested around acting and where you experience that type of stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I've had, ever since I was a little kid, I definitely had anxiety. But I hid it so well from my family and friends, that like growing up, just nobody knew. I was just a very shy and quiet kid, and I hid myself from just everybody around me. And I didn't know that it was anxiety. How could you know as a kid? Especially when you don't open up to your parents about it. You don't know what panic attacks are. You just know that you're really scared all the time. Like, not all the time, but you get really scared and you just don't know why. And it manifests, like, for me, anxiety manifests depending on what my fear is. So as a child, I was first really afraid of death. So my first panic attack was in the shower because I got soap in my mouth by mistake. And then I started crying and I jumped out of the shower thinking I was going to die because I thought soap is poison. And if you get soap in your mouth, you're just going to keel over and die. And I just remember having which is, it's hilarious now, but at the time it was very scary, because I was like crying and shaking and it was just awful. And I did have some OCD tendencies with like playing video games and feeling the need to constantly save the game over and over and over again. It's like I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, OCD didn't manifest until it didn't start taking momentum until I was a teenager. And then depression's been like very on and off. I never really considered myself a depressed person until the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And then it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then it was like the OCD, anxiety, and depression, all of it just like, it's like a ceiling just like fell.
Yeah, wow.
And it was just like, you're sort of just trying to climb through the rubble and find light again. That's what it feels like. Yeah. But that's like how it is in a nutshell. I can definitely go into, I would be happy to go into specifics with anxiety and OCD especially.
Keen's the wrong word. How do these things affect your acting?
Yes. It feels like I'm handicapped.
Okay.
I mean, and technically OCD is technically, I've read that like it is a disability, which is, it's very unsettling to think that like, I am technically a disabled person, but it does feel like a handicap, in the sense of like when I'm going through, I'm just trying to like survive. I'm just trying to manage my life. I try to take it day by day because I deal with this stuff every day, like moment by moment. And then when it gets really bad, I feel like I physically and mentally like cannot do anything. Like acting is not even important anymore. Nothing is important anymore except just getting through the storm. So during the pandemic, it's especially like the relapses have been very intense, like at least once or twice a month, where I feel like I have to mentally sort of check out from everything and everyone to just get through the storm because they can be quite intense. But before the pandemic, it didn't really affect my acting that much. Like I would have these sort of episodes of intense anxiety and OCD, but they would only be a few times a year, where I just felt like I gotta kind of take a break from everything. But during the pandemic, it's affected me, and it's still affecting me, and that's okay to say that. Like I'm not gonna pretend everything is fine. Yeah.
And is that your way of dealing with when you have the episodes, is to kind of switch off from everything and just kind of breathe is the wrong word, just kind of live through it and experience it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when I try to, let's say, exercise or try to do anything with acting, it's like I will just start crying, and it's like I physically cannot even muster through it because it feels so intense, and it feels like all I want to do is just like cry and just be alone, even though, I want to be alone but not be alone. So that's where my boyfriend, God bless his soul, comes into play. But it feels like it's not even so much of like, oh, I don't want to do acting right now. It's more of like I feel like I cannot even think about it right now. Like I can't even gather my thoughts, because with OCD it's a lot of intrusive thoughts, and it's so overwhelming a lot of the time. So it feels like I cannot even like gather my thoughts and what is even the next right thing with acting, because it just feels like this, you have so many storms going on in your mind that you just I feel like the only thing I can do is just wait for it to pass and settle, and then I'm like, oh, I can relive my life again. That's what it feels like.
Does the journey of acting trigger some of these things? I mean, when you think about what we go through as actors, whether we don't have an agent and we're trying to get an agent, whether we've got an agent and we're not getting auditions, or we're getting auditions and we're not getting roles. These are all things that I think so many people can be triggered by and get frustrated and feel depressed by these parts of the industry. Are these triggers for you specifically when it comes to OCD and depression and anxiety?
What's interesting is like the what's been triggering to me, and I'm still sort of mentally working through it. What's been like the most triggering is like is sort of like, I guess, surrender. When you inhabit a character, you're surrendering sort of, your mind and everything about you to this character, to embody them wholeheartedly. And that actually a while back started triggering OCD, because I was like, oh my God, that sounds really scary. I'm not me anymore. I'm this other, oh my God, I should not play serial killers, because what if I become a serial killer? Yeah, and there was something I had to like sort of work through with my OCD specialist. And I still have these sort of thoughts, but there was like, so I guess like for me, the OCD tendencies come up with like, oh my gosh, what if there's like what if I like lose control as the other character? So that was causing a lot of anxiety, where I was like, oh my God, can I even act anymore? Because I have OCD and anxiety about this, which sounds so ridiculous. But it feels very real, even though it's irrational. It's like, oh my God, but if I'm another character, what if I do something as this other character and I'm not me? And what if I lose myself permanently? But with the stuff of like not booking roles and things, I've gotten used to that. I don't really get hung up on it. Basically the rational things about the acting business doesn't affect me too much, but it's like the irrational stuff that my mind comes up with. That's what scares me the most, because it's like nobody else is thinking about this except me.
That's really interesting. To think that is what you would go through, because I think as actors we all want to feel when we're doing a scene or playing a character that we're in the moment and that we're feeling it. But to have the next level of, am I feeling it, and then am I actually losing who I am and becoming somebody else?
It
would be terrifying.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing I should mention with OCD is that it attacks what you care about the most.
Right.
Which is horrible. Because imagine just having all of your interests and hobbies, like the joy of that taken away from you, and suddenly everything you love becomes very scary. And that's not just with acting, it's with other things in my life, like driving, for example. I've developed a lot of anxiety with that. because like before I loved driving and traveling, and but that's a bit of a tangent. But yeah, it's just everything that you care about, OCD attacks it, not because your brain is against you, but because your brain is trying to protect you. And it's like, oh, you really care about this? Well, then, you know, I'm going to send you a bunch of intrusive thoughts to protect, because you care about it so much and you have such a strong grip on it that if you lose that thing, let's say acting, then you're going to die. So that's like how my brain is. So that's where intrusive thoughts come in, and OCD compulsions, because it's sort of your brain's way of trying to protect you from losing the thing and being extra careful with it. Like, oh, maybe, you shouldn't even act anymore, because like, what if you lose control and like you hurt somebody and then you go to jail, and then now you're in jail and you can't do acting anymore. So that's like an example of like catastrophizing. Yeah, a catastrophe.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's very like black and white kind of thinking. And it's so interesting taking a step back and like saying it verbally, but when it's like these thoughts play out in your head, it's very scary, and it's like, oh my God, I shouldn't even do acting. But my OCD specialist, worked me through it, and it's like, nope, that's when you should play those serial killer roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't personally know a lot about OCD, or how it kind of affects people. So that's really interesting, and to hear that from you. So I guess flipping back to acting, you've been in LA now for 6 years. Do you have? I'm assuming you've got an agent, and do you have an agent?
I don't have an agent, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 2 agents, and their agencies closed. Well, one closed, sorry. And then the other one, I wasn't getting any roles with them for over like 8 months.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then I did a showcase, I don't know when, a while back, for an agency, and then I didn't get called. So it's a hunt. It's a hunt for an agent, but that's okay. I'm not in that much of a rush to get an agent, because even when you get an agent, you're doing all the work as an actor. Like you still have to self-submit. You're still selling yourself and branding yourself,
Yeah.
You pay an agent 10% because they're only doing 10% of the work.
Yeah, okay. So talk to me then about what that looks like for you. I don't know a lot about the kind of LA or the American industry and how kind of finding work happens. I know for me here, in Australia, like I was freelance for a hot minute, but I signed with a new agency a couple of weeks ago. If you're not with an agent, you don't get the briefs to submit for. So how does it work over in LA? What is your process and your graft and the work that you're doing to get yourself work?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty standard in the sense of I use a lot of casting websites. Like, I use a combination of Actors Access and Backstage and casting networks, and then also before it was castingfrontier.com. And I would just look at the breakdowns and just self-submit. And I think, Actors Access has been the best resource, because that's where you find a lot of FX or Netflix projects. It's not as many like student stuff, which is not bad, but if you want to transition into the more professional work, then I found Actors Access to be very valuable, although it's much more difficult to land a part, because they're this is like the professional level now. But for me, it's always been about just self-submitting, and you sort of do the audition to the best of your ability. And then what I also like to do is, I'm not like I have a reel, but I'm not. It definitely needs updating. So right now, what I've been doing is I just record, because I'm very into characters and character acting. With like the makeup and everything. So I'll do like a character, and then I'll upload it to like a monologue to YouTube, and then I'll send that to a casting director. So I've been And so that's what I've been doing, is like reaching out to casting directors and like, I'm more of a character actor, and these are like some of my monologues. So yeah.
Cool. And how's that been kind of working out for you over the last few years? What's your success been in LA?
So it's been climbing through the trenches, as a lot as I joke about that, because it's not like, oh, I'm a working actor, because I'm still like my day job is sort of copywriting, but I have a growing. I'm proud of the fact that I have a resume now. When I came here 6 years ago, I had no credits, nothing. Now I have a reel, I have a voiceover reel, I have a resume, I have an IMDb page. I don't have an agent, but I will get one. And I just did my last gig I did was in December, and it was for a web series, and it was my highest paid role yet, which was a huge accomplishment. And I have some bookings lined up. Can't talk about them, but I do have some bookings lined up. So it's just, for me, it's like just keep doing what I've always been doing.
Yeah.
It's just submitting, auditioning, getting the next role, growing the resume, getting an agent. You just keep doing that over and over again. That's what success is like the grind.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to just keep going and going and going and pushing forward. I think, I think a lot of people come into this industry deciding, right, I'm going to be an actor, and want that to happen immediately. And if it's not happening within the first 12, 18 months, it's like, well, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to make it, or I'm too old, et cetera, et cetera. It's a grind. You really have to kind of push and push and push. Is your copywriting job full time, or is it freelance, or how does the timing work with copywriting versus?
It is freelance. So luckily, it's very flexible with the scheduling in terms of acting and stuff. Although my workload is pretty big, so I have to time it right with acting, with submitting a self-tape. And it's not even just submitting a self-tape, it's when you get the sides, you have to take the time to memorize them and build a character, rather than like, all right, I'm just gonna do this in an hour, hurry up, do the tape. You have to put time into it if you want to be an actor. So I mean, it's a lot of work that I do for copywriting, but I always make sure to I have to put acting first. So when I get an audition or a role, writing, I will build the writing schedule around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think there's so many schools of thought around how much time you should spend on acting. With the whether it's you shouldn't have a full-time job and you should make trying to become an actor your full-time job or whatnot.
I don't know how actors do that, by the way. Like, some actors don't have jobs here and they just pursue acting, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, let me in on your secret, because I've always needed a job.
Aren't they working in bars and restaurants and servers and stuff like that?
I mean, some of them are, but like some really, like a lot of actors I've met on set, I'll ask them, what's your day job? I don't have one. And I'm like, well, what do you do? How do you make money? I have no idea. I've always had to work like an actual job,
Yeah, I do not
and
have
make that work.
I don't have the luxury, but I do have friends who are in relationships, and they're like, I've got a girlfriend she made the decision a few years ago to go full-time acting, and that's all she does. But her husband, she's in a position where her husband can kind of take care of them financially. But she works enough, I think, as an actor to make money, which is great. And I aspire to be at the position where I can just focus on acting full-time as well, like a corporate job. But that's what I'm hoping when I get to London.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, is like, when do you transition from a job into, no, you know what, I'm going to make the leap into full-time acting, do you have to, is that like a risk that you just sort of take, or is that like, you know, you want to see some momentum happening, a bit of an upward trajectory? I mean, that's what I would like to think, is I would never, you know, like risk my survivability and my bills to take the leap into full-time acting unless I was actually making momentum. But even then, that's scary, because even if you have gained momentum with acting, it can stop at any time. There's a lot of stories like that where actors are doing well, they get a big role, whatever, for a few months, and then they hit a dry spell for years. Well, now what? Are you going to go back to your job? You know, I don't think there's a right answer for that. I just think that it really depends on the actor and again, your situation. How you mentioned you have a friend, the girlfriend, you know, acts full time, but she has a husband she can rely on financially. So I think it's very dependent on the actor and where their instincts are guiding them.
What do you think it would take for you to give up copywriting and focus on acting full time? Have you thought about it, and what it would take for you to get there?
I would have to see some consistent momentum with both getting auditions and getting booked for roles. And I would have to have enough money saved up for those dry spells. You know, instead of, oh my God, I'm in a dry spell and I don't have a job and I have no money. No, I think that you have to have your sort of emergency actor fund saved up on the side for those dry spells, to be prepared for that. But I would have to see some consistent momentum rather than, oh, I got this role and it pays thousands of dollars for this month and that's it. No, that's not a good reason. There has to be some consistency shown. In my opinion. I could be way off.
How often are you, at this point in your career, how often are you getting auditions through casting agents for like non-student stuff and whatnot?
Yeah. Oh, for non-student stuff, I'll probably get like 3, maybe 4 auditions a month for like a professional sort of network, which I think is pretty good. I mean, I self-submit a lot though. So, but I think like 3 to 4 auditions, you know, for like the professional stuff is a month. Pretty good. That's good. Pretty good, yeah.
Does the way it work in the US with Actors Access and whatnot with self-submit, do you actually have to do the audition to self-submit first, or do you submit so that the casting director goes, yeah, we want to see an audition from you?
Yeah, so for Actors Access, you submit clips of yourself. So it's not really like a reel, it'll be just like clips of like your work. And then from there, they will say, we want to see an audition. And then that's when you self-submit. Okay, cool. But usually first they go off your demo reel or any clips, and then you go through the audition process. Yeah.
But you're submitting, you're getting actual 3 to 4 audition requests a month through casting.
Yeah, through like, I would say like the professional stuff, like the non-student or short film stuff, and that's just to like keep the gears rolling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I'm not shy about just applying to everywhere. Yeah.
Shouldn't be. No, that's great.
Yeah.
I think to be able to be getting, you know, regular auditions is fantastic, and doing regular auditions will keep the muscle warm as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you still do training or courses or classes or anything at the moment as well?
Yeah. So, well, I was doing an acting class over Zoom a few months ago during, you know, the pandemic, and then that was sort of the last one that I took. And then I just got to a point where I was like, I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I have to find a new acting class. So right now I'm just sort of in the process of finding the new acting class, whatever that may be. I mean, I'm not going to lie, acting classes are expensive. So I always sort of get annoyed when people are like, oh, you should, take a class. And it's like, well, with what money? They're really expensive. I mean, they're cheaper over Zoom. That's why I was like, for a while, I was looking at classes over Zoom. They're much cheaper over Zoom. But in-person acting classes in LA, oh my gosh, a few hundred a month. Somewhere like the Stella Adler Academy, I think is like upwards of 1,000 a month.
Wow.
For one of them. It's really, I always get a little peeve when people are like, take a class in person, and it's like, yeah, they're really expensive.
Becoming an actor is expensive work. I mean, there's so many. It's one of the only career, like the arts is like one of the only industry where you pay, like it costs you so much money before you make money.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating.
Yeah, it's a big investment in yourself. Yeah. I'm not against acting classes, although I believe that this is one of the few industries where I think you can make it without acting classes. There's living proof. There's a lot of actors, who've made it without classes. I think there's such a huge emphasis on taking classes to keep the acting class, the business side of it going, right? Teachers, of course, are going to encourage that you take acting classes because they need to make money from it. So, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's great. It's not going to hurt you to take an acting class, but is it necessary to make it? Absolutely not.
Sure. I think for me, like I do regular scene work, and it's just more keeping the muscle warm more than anything else. Because for me, the auditions aren't coming in thick and fast for a month, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to be able to do a scene a week within an acting class is good to keep it's like going to the gym, right? So
right, yeah, of course, yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, no. But they're very expensive. I just wish they weren't so expensive.
I know. It is ridiculous how expensive some classes can be.
Yeah.
Sure.
But over Zoom, it's much cheaper. For anyone out there listening, it's cheaper over Zoom. The last acting class I was in was only $10 a class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was really great. Yeah.
So what I know you can't talk about. You already said that you can't talk about the projects that are coming up, which is fine. But do you have like a goal of the type of character or like the type of part that you'd like to play at some point?
Something that scares me, something that, because I've been really, just circling really quick back to the mental health stuff, all my life it's just been about avoiding anxiety and avoiding things that are going to trigger my OCD and panic and all that crap. But lately it's been about, I want to move towards it to understand it and to understand myself better. And even if that means playing wacky characters or villains and serial killers, those are very, very interesting to me. More so than the heroes or the leading ladies, because just what villains have been through psychologically, a lot of people don't understand them, and I think that's why there's hatred towards them.
Sure.
Is coming from a lack of understanding. So I think that just that sort of deep character dive is something I would like to do. Yeah, but aside from like villains and bad people, I'm really into character stuff. So it's like completely changing the voice and the makeup and the looks, just rather than playing real and authentic. I like the more outlandish characters.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And do you make your own content, or right? Have you moved down that?
I have stuff on YouTube. They're not public yet. Right now, they're just sort of unlisted to casting directors. I've been really shy about making them public on YouTube, even though I should. But I know how scathing the comments section can be. So it's like, do I turn off the comments if I make it public, or do I leave the comments on? Yeah, I don't know yet. But right now, it's just been like, I'll make I'll make content and then I'll send it to casting directors and agents. Like, this is what I've been working on. Even if I'm not booking anything, I still like to make characters. And sometimes it's like memorizing a monologue and then, doing that. But right now I'm in the process of actually I don't know. Do you read comic books?
No, I don't. Not personally.
Oh, okay. Well, there's some comic book characters that, they have not been shown on screen. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if I just take excerpts and monologues from comic books and then create a character from that, and then send, which is $1 million idea. I should not say that publicly, but that's that's what I've been kind of doing, is like creating comic book characters and bringing in some,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've been going for almost an hour. I'm going to ask one final question. Given kind of what you were talking about around OCD and anxiety and depression, if there was any advice that you could give to actors that might be in a similar position to you and struggling, what would that advice be?
Oh my God. I have so much advice. I don't know how to condense it, but just, I think overall, just know that it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. There's a lot of resources out there, lots of YouTube videos and articles that you can read to help with your anxiety and depression and OCD. I can even verbally say some of them right now. For OCD especially, you can watch Nathan Peterson's YouTube videos, have been absolute gold for me. If you want to find an OCD specialist, you can check out No OCD, or it's called treatmyocd.com, which their brand is called No OCD. I'm not affiliated with them. It's really hard to find an OCD specialist, and that's like the well-known website for it. And just know that you are not your thoughts. You're not even your feelings. You're this constantly evolving, changing person who's just doing their best. You don't have to get involved with you don't have to get involved with the negative storm or the storm just swirling in you. Just take a step back and observe it objectively and just keep moving forward with your life. Just do the next right thing. Take the next right step. And the storm always passes. As George Harrison said, all things must pass. And they do pass.
I love that. I think some of that is great advice, not only for people that suffer from OCD and anxiety and depression. I think that statement there of you are not your thoughts and you are not your feelings, I think that could resonate. I think everybody should kind of take that stance.
Yeah.
Especially in this industry. So that's super cool.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It went by so fast. I was so surprised. Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me a platform to talk about this, especially the mental health stuff. It's very important to me.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. Good luck on your journey to making it. And I will share all your socials, etc., for people to follow you. Even your YouTube for when you decide to unprivatize or your content for people to see.
Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, have a lovely weekend, and
you too.
Look forward to watching you grow.
Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Have a great weekend.